This month marks the 10th anniversary of Blaster Master. The first game launched in November 1988 for the NES in North America. Usually I don't mention the Japanese names in these retrospectives because they're too similar, but Blaster Master as a whole has a strange history. For example, it was called Chô Wakusei Senki Metafight in Japan. Before we get more into that past, let's talk about what the first game was even about. At its core, you could simply label Blaster Master as another action platformer, but it also resembles a Metroidvania of sorts. Whether you want to call it that or not, it was a deeper action platformer for the time, that much is true. The game begins with our hero, Jason, chasing after his pet frog, Fred, which leads him down a hole. There he discovers a tank, Sophia the Third, and on his quest to find Fred, he also has to battle subterranean mutants. Seems about right for an 80s NES plot. Now, majority of the game takes place in the tank, wherein you blast foes away and jump around like a typical platformer, except that you're in a tank. Here's where things get interesting though. You can also exit the tank, but are incredibly weak to the monsters outside. You're also tiny in size. That is, unless you enter dungeons, which has easier monsters to thwart and then becomes sort of a simpler Zelda. It's sort of a three-way battle system that still seems crazy to me today. Unfortunately, as groundbreaking as this idea was at the time, the series unfortunately never truly evolved afterward, and sort of got stuck in a limbo of remakes and reinterpretations, which I'll get more into at the end. After the game's success, Sunsoft, the developer, was planning a sequel for the Super Nintendo, but it never came to fruition. In their stead, another company picked up the rights, Software Creations, and developed Blaster Master 2 for the Sega Genesis, which released exclusively in March 1993 in North America. I actually couldn't find out if it ever released in Japan or Europe on some iteration of a virtual console, but as far as the original cartridge release goes, this was, again, exclusive for North America. It didn't happen often, but there were exclusive North American sequels to games that started in Japan, like Snake's Revenge, a sequel to the NES port of Metal Gear. The next game, Blaster Master Boy, released in an unspecified month in 1992 for the Game Boy in North America. It's technically not a sequel though. That's because it's the successor to a game called Robo Warrior, known in Japan as Bomber King, which in itself is a spin-off of Bomberman. While that's pretty confusing, it does fit Blaster Master in a way, which is to say it resembles the dungeon segments of the first title. After that, there was a big gap before things started to ramp up again. Since these next few games don't have as alarming regional differences, I'm just going to rattle them off real quick. There was Blaster Master Enemy Below, released in September 2000 for the Game Boy Color in North America. Then we had Blaster Master Blasting Again, released in May 2001 for the PS1 in North America. Funnily enough, this was the first game to be called Blaster Master in Japan, aka just Blaster Master, and not some variation on Metafight. Next, there was a long gap before Blaster Master Overdrive, released in February 2010 for the Wii's online store in North America. Finally, another leap in time before Blaster Master Zero, released in March 2017 for the 3DS and Switch. Except for the PS1 game, the other three are all basically the same concept of the original. Get in the tank, fight enemies, get out, explore a dungeon, repeat. In terms of what's the most accessible, definitely Zero for the Switch. That PS1 game though, like a lot of 2D game series, tried to reinvent itself in 3D in this era. Yes, technically it is more of the same, but reimagined and a valiant effort at that. That said, it tried to go for a more grittier tone and was just kind of bland. Again, if you want the best experience for the series, definitely check out Zero. But that's about all I have to say for Blaster Master. Thanks for watching this brief retrospective on Blaster Master. Hope to see you in my next quick dive. My name is Tristan, and you've been watching ReActionExaminer, wherein I do my best to create interesting videos to entertain and educate you fine folks. Be sure to subscribe, that helped me out a lot, And if you want to check out more, be sure to read my work over on The Gamer, wherein I write fun little listicles. You can also drop by my personal website, GameJerk, wherein I post other articles and reviews. All these links and more can be found in the description below. Thanks, and see you all next time.